how's it going? Sam Bolton here, coming from the snowy tundra here in Tennessee. Maybe you can see out there my at my window there. Got some major snowfall coming in. That's serious for Nashville. It's like 6 inches, 7 inches. It's a snowpocalypse for Middle Tennessee. The South, they don't know how to handle winter weather. Though I think they're getting better this year. Um, they upgraded from their two snowplows for a city of a million. So hopefully Atlanta and Texas does better. But yes, welcome to my stream. I have a very fascinating topic I want to discuss with you all today. First, I'm going to check and make sure we are running here because I am nervous. I'm paranoid. Let's see. So far, it seems that Rumble Studio is pretty reliable. Welcome to my stream. I have a very fascinating topic I want to discuss with you all today. I'm not getting any video though. First, fix that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay, now you can see the snowfall. There we go. All right. Welcome. See, it's a good thing I checked, okay? Welcome to my stream. I have a very fascinating topic I want to talk to you about today. My name's Sam Bolton. I like talking about stuff. Yeah, I want to talk about egregores and the hidden forces that shape our reality, okay? One of my favorite topics. So, are you controlled by invisible forces? Some of you who are more materialists might say no. Those of you who are faith-based probably say yes. Okay, but have you ever heard of the concept of an egregore? You probably have not. Maybe you've heard of the concept of a tulpa, kind of similar. But an egregore basically is a thought form that is created by collective focus. So a group of people, a large group of people constantly focusing on a figure or an idea or a corporate mission statement or something like that. The collective energy of all those people focusing on one idea, one thought form, one character, one figure effectively gives that idea, that egregore, that's what an egregore is, a type of agency. And it's a mystery whether or not these things actually have independence. Well, they're not completely independent, but whether they actually have some sort of life of their own at some point, or if it's simply all in our heads. But even if it is just all in our heads, these things have a power over us, even if they are just simply in our brains, right? Ideas are powerful. Egregores are powerful. Okay. And these can include, obviously religious figures would be an obvious one: Zeus, Thor, Hades, Indra, Jesus Christ, Muhammad. It can include corporations. Think of the power of the golden arches. Everybody knows what that means. The Coca-Cola can. Everybody knows what that is. Um, you know, literary figures. I'm reminded of an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where the holodeck gives life to Moriarty, and he comes to life and becomes one of the villains in Star Trek. Sort of along those lines. Maybe that's an egregore. All the fans of Sherlock Holmes read his literature and start thinking about and giving attention to the characters, and they sort of take on a life of their own. Batman is another good one. Everybody kind of has this idea of Batman. Our society loves Batman, and over the years, Batman has reflected the way that our society has changed. In the '80s, he became sort of goth, and then in the early 2000s, he started to reflect more like a War on Terror style Batman. In the '60s, he was campy, and reflected the culture and the attention that he was getting from his fans. Okay, so that could be an egregore. So, what if the gods we worship, the ideologies we follow, even the brands we love are not just ideas, but what if they're living entities influencing our minds and actions? Egregores are autonomous psychic entities created and sustained by collective human thought and belief. Jesus, Coca-Cola, political movements, ancient gods. By the end of this video, you'll understand how egregores shape our world and how you can recognize and interact with them. And this is an important topic to bring up because as someone who used to be Christian, you have these loved ones in your life, and it's easy to just write them off as crazy because, oh, they had these spiritual experiences, or they had some sort of interaction that convinced them to be a theist or a believer. And you want to say, oh, well, they're crazy. It's all just in their heads. But if egregores are a real thing, some the critiques and the criticisms we have about the reliability of the Bible and Christianity can exist and be true, and people can still also legitimately have these experiences because they're interacting with egregores, right? So that's sort of, I guess that's why I'm fascinated with it, because I want to believe that the people that I I know and love growing up, people in my family, they weren't just completely off their rocker, and they were actually having real experiences. They just were not correct about the identity of the thing that they were interacting with. Okay. Um, so there's a book that was published a few years back by a very accomplished occult writer and occultist named Mark Stavish. He's an American from Pennsylvania, I believe, but it was called Egregore something. I should probably get the title for you here. Get it for you. It's Egregores, the occult entities that watch over human destiny. So that's the book. If you want to check it out. So he says an egregore is a psychic entity that influences and is influenced by the thoughts of a group of people. So essentially, what I said. The origin of the word is Greek. Egregoros means watcher, and its first appearance is actually in the book of Enoch, which is a fascinating extra biblical book that uh, the writers of the New Testament seem to be aware of and believed in. And it's interesting that the watchers from the book of Enoch, which were essentially kind of an angel, an agent of God, who were, sent to kind of manage humanity on the earth during or that time before the flood. So that's where the word comes from. Maybe the angels of God are egregores, something that humans actually created with their collective thought and attention. You could think of the ancient city states like Athens and having their patron deity Athena. So the collective identity of Athens came together to create this deity Athena that they worshipped, and that still has an impact on Greece and the world today in a lot of ways. I mean, she's still tearing it up in Percy Jackson, right? And then of course, you have McDonald's and corporations who I think actually are aware of this power that collective human attention has, and purposely creates corporate egregores to serve their interests, right? So egregores are living beings that must be fed and nurtured, and they can inspire and enslave. So I think let's just take the big the focus by billions of people, right? That's a lot of collective thought energy being focused on one individual character. So, if after a certain point there's enough energy fed into this thought form, it can take on an agency and life of its own, right? And that's why people have these intense, seemingly interactions with Jesus in the spirit realm or in the dream world or in their thoughts, because they're interacting with this collective entity that has been developed and nurtured by thousands of years of human focus. Okay. So, Muslim encounters Jesus in a dream and converts to Christianity. That's probably the Jesus egregore. I mean, maybe at some point these egregores can become so intense and so strong that people can actually have visions of them and see them with their eyes. Who knows? I mean, that's getting into a little bit of a Ghostbuster territory with like ectoplasm and stuff. But perhaps that's possible. I'm thinking about the vision of the Virgin Mary at Fatima. Perhaps that was collective egregore. You know, there's so many people there expecting to see her, and then she manifested. Um, so there's another concept that's kind of similar from Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, called a tulpa. These are individual thought forms, and there's actually a practice where you can create a tulpa. This is essentially creating an imaginary friend on purpose, right? You may have heard about this. It's kind of big on the internet some years ago. But the idea is you create a character, someone you want to be your tulpa, and create, whatever you want it to be, the way it looks, its personality, its flaws, its quirks, whatever. And you spend time and you meditate on this character you've created, and you put your thought energy into it, and you close your eyes and you're thinking about it and you're feeling it, and you're just putting all this energy into it. And then after some time, the tulpa starts to manifest and becomes a voice in your head. It sounds like you're forcing insanity, but people do this. It's a practice in Buddhism. It's a practice on Tumblr, apparently, some years ago. And they get to the point where they can see these beings. They could get to the point where these beings seem to have their own sense of agency apart from their creator. Um, get to the point where they feel like they can even touch these beings in a way and feel them. Right. There's a book by Alexandra David Neal that kind of introduced this concept to the West called Magic and Mystery in Tibet. And this author created a tulpa that looked like a Tibetan monk, and eventually it kind of got a mind of its own. The quote from the book: "Once the tulpa is endowed with enough vitality to be capable of playing the part of a real being, it tends to free itself from its maker's control." So apparently, they can get a mind of their own after a while if you put enough thought and energy into them. And apparently, it can be kind of dangerous too if you don't pay. If you create this thing and then you don't pay enough attention to it, it can start to really go create. Throw a fit and start to mess with you and cause problems and give you headaches and things. That's what people report. Is this all just schizophrenia? Maybe. I think it's fascinating. I've never really had an experience like this, though. I won't say I haven't tried to sort of dabble in creating a tulpa. I wasn't too successful, but that's probably because I can't focus that well. Anyway, so the difference between a tulpa and an egregore, similar concepts, but a tulpa is created by an individual or maybe even a small group. An egregore is created by a large group of people, a nation, a religion, just a huge group of people, collective thought and belief. Okay. It can be autonomous after a while. Examples: nationalism. Think the Nazi Party, swastika, the Soviet hammer and sickle. These ideas kind of take on a life of their own, and they go on and influence the world after their founders are gone. Think religions and corporate brands, and then the risks of an egregore. They can actually enslave and manipulate groups. Whereas a tulpa, they could just gain some autonomy beyond a single creator. So are deities egregores? I think if they're anything, if they exist, they're most likely egregores. They're most likely created by us. If they have some kind of agency and people interact with them and have these life changing experiences with them, perhaps people are legitimately having these experiences. They're just interacting with the tulpa, right? Billions sustain the Jesus egregore through prayer, rituals, and devotion. Miracles attributed to Jesus may reflect collective psychic energy directed toward him over millennia. So Christianity can be false in a literal sense, but still possess real power due to the collective energy of the Jesus Christ egregore. So if this is perhaps all in our heads, there's a quote from the famous occultist Lon Milo Duquette. He actually says it is all in your head. You just have no idea how big your head is. That is to say, the part of yourself, your inner self that you're aware of, is a small percentage of what's actually in there. Okay, so you have a lot more potential and power and landscape to explore in your inner world. Most people are aware of. Other examples, of course, Zeus, protector of the city states in ancient Greece. That was a tulpa. Thor, Norse god of thunder and war. Not a tulpa, these are egregores. Horus, as a symbol of kingship in ancient Egypt. And these are shared motifs across cultures that egregores evolve or merge. Modern religions, of course, you've got Allah with the crescent moon and the other symbols. Muslims praying every day toward Mecca on their rug. That collective energy every single day, over and over again. Billion of people. It's going to create a profoundly influential egregore. There's another book that came out I read before any of these called Walter Wink. He's kind of a progressive, leftist, maybe Christian author. He wrote a book called The Powers That Be, and this is a similar concept. His idea is that the powers that be have their own sense of agency and own autonomy. They're both visible and invisible. So visible institutions, invisible their spirit or their ethos, right? So they're both visible and invisible. Maybe you've got the United States government and all their buildings in DC, their white marble buildings, and you have their invisible spirit or ethos. So maybe you could say the spirit or the ethos of the United States government these days is that rampant, rapacious, capitalist, neoliberal desire to suck up all the the money and cut tax and cut the benefits for the common man and feed it up to the 1%. That's the ethos of, or has been for the last 30 years of the United States government. And perhaps the collective energy of the people now is shifting that egregore into a different ethos, and morphing it back into something that serves the people. I hope that's what's happening. Uh, when powers serve their divine purpose, or that these powers that be that Walter Winks talks about serve a good purpose, they're beneficial. They can actually be very useful. You know, the group is much more powerful than the individual. Or if they go into the negative aspect, he says they become idolatrous or demonic, akin to parasites, parasitic egregores, or maybe you could even call them archons, looking at the Gnostic understanding of the world. These are dark entities that serve to suck our energy and leave us in a state of fear and desperation, because they feed off of that negative energy. So they actually manipulate us to going into negative states of mind so they can feed off of that negative energy and continue to thrive and exist. Right? Quoting from Wink, the powers can inspire justice or perpetuate domination, depending on how they are nurtured. So, what's a power that could inspire justice? Like maybe some of the ideas of the American Revolution became an egregore, swept across the world, and inspired revolutions and people throwing off the bonds of ancient and anachronistic governments that no longer served the people's interests. I mean, go look at the Constitution written by Ho Chi Minh in the Vietnam War. It was essentially a rewrite of the American revolutionary documents, right? So he was inspired 200 years later to start his war, even though America fought against him. And then, of course, we have the Nazi swastika. Most understand that to be a destructive egregore, though not everyone. Fueled by mass devotion. To this day, there's still Nazis all over the world. In Ukraine, the swastika is a powerful egregore. There's another, just to add to this idea that the power of human thought can shape reality. The power of human focus can shape reality. There's another author from Rice University named Jeffrey Kripal. He wrote a book called The Authors of the Impossible. And this is a collection of stories about authors writing books and different works of fiction, and then somehow these works of fiction manifesting into physical reality in their own lives, right? Uh, so these are paranormal phenomena, sort of challenge the materialist worldview. Perhaps the mind consciousness does really have an impact on shaping the material world. And you can think about, within that sense, you have the H.P. Lovecraft Cthulhu mythos becoming a cultural egregore with real world influence, right? Shaping how the culture understands the cosmos and what might be out there, the fear of the unknown in the cosmos, and of course Cthulhu himself becoming a sort of beloved character and even an egregore of a type. Quoting from Kripal, belief itself can manifest tangible effects, blurring the line between fiction and reality. It's true. Can indeed. Okay. Moving on to the ethical implications. So the dual nature of egregores, they can inspire creativity, unity, and personal growth, like spiritual practices or oh, hang on one second. Pause. Sorry, that was another mom just asking if she could feed my daughter some soup after playing outside in the cold. I said it was fine because I'm a good dad. So anyway, so yes, egregores, they can actually be, there's a lot of positive aspects to the Jesus Christ egregore. There's people find life-changing power in that thought form. Um, but there's negative aspects too. It can enslave individuals through manipulation or blind devotion, cults or toxic ideologies. These are all over the place. I think the important thing is to be aware that this is a thing, that these exist, and that you do not have to let them influence you. You can be free of their influence. Okay. You don't have to be a slave. You can be awake and free. Yeah, I think a lot of these egregores, Tulpas even they want to stay alive and they need your attention and your focus to do so. And so if they're a negative egregore, they're going to create situations and manipulate you and manipulate groups of people to get the energy that they want, that fear and that desperation that they want. And same with the positive egregores, right? But I think it's important to get that within this framework, within this idea of egregores and tulpas, the foundation of all this, of all the gods and ideologies and different things that become egregores and impact human society, the basis and the foundation for all of this is in humanity itself. It's within us. So we have the power to change it. And we have the power to harness these forces for our good because we're their masters ultimately. We got to remember that. Uh, Mark Stavish has an idea of breaking free from harmful egregores called therapeutic blasphemy technique. It's to sever ties with these destructive entities and basically just do a ritual. Okay, you can do it just with pure visualization, and what visualization, all that is using your imagination. You know, picturing something in your mind's eye. You can symbolically reject the influences of these egregores through visualization. You can maybe visualize the symbols tied to the egregores that you want to be free from being destroyed, burned, disintegrated. Just use your mind to see that. Or you can even just destroy a symbol belonging to the egregore and state your purpose to be free of their influence. You can burn it in a fire pit or something right in front of you in the physical world. And then, of course, every day be conscious, be self-aware, practice consciousness. That's so important. The 9 times out of 10 when we're having relationship problems, when our life isn't going well, we're not doing the things we want to do, it's because we're not being conscious. We're not being consciously aware of what's going on in our internal world and our mind and why we're being motivated and driven to do certain things. Most people just live their life on autopilot and are just unconscious about what's in their subconscious mind, about the traumas and the hurts that are fueling their behavior, and about the egregores and the tulpas that are influencing them. We all have it. We all have these issues and these influences on our lives. So it's time to become aware, to wake up, and to not let them control us anymore. It's time to be free and independent. It's time to grow up, okay, and to stop putting the responsibility for the hard decisions in life in the hands of these things. These are not our masters; they are our slaves. It's time to take back control. All right. Practice self-awareness. Do it. How do you can actually create positive tulpas and egregores in your life? You can channel your collective energy and focus into projects that build community around you, and into ideas and thought forms that you feel are beneficial to the world. And you can use rituals to intentionally manifest these outcomes. Um, and you have to come up with your own set of rituals, but there's so many rituals out there that we all take part in that feed energy into egregores that we never signed up for. It's just something we were taught to do from a young age. So take a step back, become conscious, become aware, and develop your own set of rituals that you want to do that benefits the life you have chosen to live, and benefits the egregores that you have chosen to feed your energy into and be, your servant. That's what they are. Or none at all. You don't have to feed any energy into egregores if you don't want to, but if you're going to, do it with intention. So how do you recognize egregores? Just think about symbols and narratives that you did not create that are influencing your life. Political ideologies. Are you sold out to one of the two crazy political ideologies in the United States? Are you MAGA? Are you progressive? Do you engage in the culture war? If Joe Biden sneezes, do you find a reason why it was a communist plot? If if Donald Trump, criticizes something about the California wildfires, are you there to say, well, what about Donald Trump Jr.'s Coke problem? Are you taking part in that culture war? Because those are definitely two battling egregores, and just being a slave to that is not healthy for you and your soul. Okay, so it's time to break free from that. Do these egregores empower you, or are they manipulating you for an end, for a goal? You gotta ask yourself that. And then engage with them consciously. Align your actions with higher ideals to ensure positive outcomes. Don't turn your actions into does this serve my favorite political candidate, or does this serve my chosen religious figure? Does this serve the cause of truth, integrity, honor, uh, well-being, and thriving for humanity? These are the higher ideals that you should serve. And then, of course, just think critically about the collective systems that you've chosen to participate in. Right? Is that something you chose? Was that something you were told to participate in from a young age? And then just think about the power of collective thought and how it shapes reality. This world truly is the human society we live in truly is shaped by thought and the ideas in people's heads. Okay, so much war, tragedy that's happened in human history are started in the minds of people as ideas, as egregores, and so many of the good things and the progress that humans have experienced. Same thing. That's really all we're talking about. We're talking about the power of ideas here and how they take on a life of their own. Final quote from Stavish here: "Every now and then, there's a book or an idea that changes how you see the world forever. Egregores is one such idea." So yeah, the power of ideas is very, very important to reflect on and really think about, and to stop figuring out ways to stop letting them have control over you. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about egregores. I think that this is an important idea to keep in your repertoire to remember. I'm trying to see if anybody has any live chats before I go. Does anyone watching me have any questions or chats they want to throw in there that I can respond to? I'll wait for just a second. Let's see. Hmm, I don't think so. Let me hop over here to YouTube and see if anybody has chatted anything. First, I'm gonna go check, make sure we're running here because I'm consciously aware. I don't think so. Let me hop over here to YouTube and see if anybody has chatted anything. Nope, no chats. All right, y'all. Well, I'm gonna stop it there. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon. Stay warm.